If I had to summarize 2025 for Arcat in one word, mine is momentum.
And mine is proof. Proof that people in the UAE actually want an honest, grounded conversation about their cities.
Big time. And this year we brought planners, psychologists, historians, and practitioners into the studio, and you brought their ideas into your conversations and daily life. So thank you.
So today we're rewinding 2025. The episodes that shifted us, the streets and neighborhoods we're proud and passionate about, and what we want 2026 to look like for both Arcat and for UAE cities.
Plus a few hot takes you can happily send to your favorite developer.
Shall we start? Yalla?
Let's go. All right, let's start personal, Fatma. One word for your 2025 in Arcat, what would it be?
Like I said, it was truly proof, because this was the year where Arcat really stopped being about this new and upcoming studio and became a true reference point. And
we turned two this year.
We turned two this year, and indeed. And we started to see this in different places. Students started citing us, colleagues in government sending our clips internally, which was amazing. It was really cool. And people in the comments saying, this is exactly what my neighborhood needs.
What about your high?
For the high, I would say truly seeing our content as used as a language tool. When someone says, now I understand why this junction, for example, feels so stressful, right? That's gold.
Yeah.
We're not just designing spaces. We're giving people words for their daily experiences. And that's truly why we started this community, why we started our social media platforms and the podcasts, actually.
That gives power to residents and to people to be able to identify what the problem is.
Yeah, we wanted to extend the conversation to the community.
Right,
and
I
it seems
love
like
that.
we achieved it.
Now let's flip it. What was the low?
The low. So I would say the complexity.
Tell us about that.
The complexity, why? Realizing how many of the problems we talk about today, whether it's housing or parking, plot sizes, disconnected districts, they're not only design problems, right? They're related to governance, policy, legacy. It's very multi-layered, and it can be actually heavy.
And the lesson?
The lesson that we can't stay in just the pretty diagrams and drawings. If we're really serious, we have to keep connecting these drawings to laws, institutions, to budgets.
Yeah, so really caring about implementation and feasibility,
Exactly.
not just beautiful drawings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that has a process in its place. But tell us, Ahmed, what is your word?
So mine is momentum.
Yeah.
And I choose that word because it really felt like a year where small, consistent pushes started turning into much bigger conversations. From how we talk about our neighborhoods to whether every new road in the UAE really needs to be 6 lanes.
And your high?
My high was honestly when we saw our work being used on both sides by both residents and decision makers. You know you're onto something when the same reel speaks to a planning student and a director in a government entity.
Absolutely.
So that was really, really cool.
And the low?
The low, I mean, the low was also an opportunity, but it's seeing how much land we still waste, you know, whether that's oversized blocks or plots, underused corners, single-use neighborhoods where after 6 p.m., you know, the street life is dead.
Yeah.
And we know how to do better, but legacy decisions are still shaping people's lives.
Interesting. It's a really big one, that topic, right? And the lesson from that?
The lesson is you can't fix everything at a master plan scale, you know, and some of the most powerful moves are at the scale of one street, one block, one intersection. And we need to keep reminding ourselves of that.
And we've actually talked about that extensively, where there's so much impact in the small intervention,
100%, right? Yeah, tactical urbanism.
Exactly,
You know? Yeah.
exactly. Okay, so let's talk podcasts, right?
Yes.
So we had 6 guests this year.
We did.
Impeccable guests.
Exactly. Dr. Salem, Dr. Lamir Arim,
Dr. Mustafa.
Dr. Mustafa Dah, Dr. Luis Lambert.
We got most of them were doctors.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think instead of maybe doing a recap of each one, it would be a good idea to pull out at least, let's say, three of the biggest ideas that stayed with us.
Yeah.
And I think I would start with the fact that well-being is a planning issue and not an afterthought. So from our well-being and psychology episode, obviously the one that was led by Dr. Louise Lambert, she did truly an amazing job. But one idea that really struck hard is a city can be organized, efficient, and deeply tiring at the same time. And we've heard that across the board, whether it was loud roads cutting through neighborhoods, no quiet public third spaces to just be. And I know third spaces is becoming a popular term. And playgrounds, let's say playgrounds in the sun with no shade at 4 p.m.
Yeah.
So it's not just inconvenient, it really wears people down. So people are actually
hostile urban environment.
Yeah, and people are talking about it from an emotional perspective. So I feel like the shift for us was really the realization that well-being it's not a bonus, it's really like entrenched into our design brief.
Yeah, it's core infrastructure.
It's core infrastructure.
Yeah.
And if we're not truly asking, how does this street make people feel when they're rushing, when they're lost, when they're vulnerable, then we're really doing half our job. Because at the end of the day, people are at the center of cities.
They are, and that brings us to the second idea that I want to talk about, actually, that came out of episodes with Olivia Duncan and a lot of people talk
about livability. Exactly.
100%. And the second big idea really came from these conversations, on livability, equity, belonging. Livability is about people. It's about who you design for. And we talked a lot about how UAE cities can feel very different depending on who you are, right?
Yeah.
Whether you're an Emirati or an expat.
And that's a very important part because we cater to over 200 nationalities. So taking into consideration that diversity
is so important.
It's very paramount,
So exactly. And so the way you experience the city is very different depending on whether you're an Emirati or an expat, a family with kids versus a bachelor, a car owner versus, a domestic worker walking on a narrow edge trying to get to a public transport stop.
Yeah.
And so the conclusion was hard, but also really important, I think. And it's, if your livable neighborhood only works for people with 2 cars and a driver, it's not actually livable, right? It's curated.
Yeah.
And that showed up in real UAE examples that we studied, whether they were gated communities or older mixed use neighborhoods, neighborhoods with a lot of homes but no corner grocery stores that are within
or essential services,
even that you can't walk to, and
we see this trend where you have a resident living on one side of the city and having to drop their all the way 20-30 minutes.
Big time. And then you have new waterfront developments where the waterfront's not publicly accessible. I mean, most of it. So it pushed us as Arcat to ask ourselves in every project, who's invincible in this plan or drawing, and what would it take to bring them back in?
Yeah. And I think for the third idea, it really came from the governance and history side, which I thought was very important and really crucial to highlight, especially when it came to conversations about how Abu Dhabi, Dubai, and other cities in the Gulf evolved, right? And we kept circling back to the same point, which is identity. It's not a facade or a pattern on a mashrabiyah. It's really in the street hierarchy, the courtyards, the rhythms of daily life, the way majlis spaces and public spaces talk to each other. So it was really about the wisdom.
Yeah.
Right. That all these different aspects were
your local mosque that had a grocery store next to it that was accessible by sikkas, Yeah.
It's also, by the way, in who decides what gets built and for whom, right? And what I mean by that is if you say we care about heritage, but you approve projects, let's say, that erase older communities, the system is telling a different story.
You're not walking that.
Yeah. So that's our third big idea, is really to stop treating identity as a mood board and treat it as this holistic system, taking into consideration spatial, social, and political aspects, right? So moving on, let's zoom into the UAE itself. If you were to look back at 2025, what did the UAE cities teach you?
I would say for me, it's that we're in a transition era. We're moving from add more, so adding more
Yeah.
roads, more malls, more towers, to make better. Whether that's better streets, better edges, better everyday life between the icons, you know, the spaces that people actually feel on a day-to-day basis.
I completely agree. And I actually think there are three very UAE specific issues that actually kept coming up in our work. And I think it would be, I think it would be quite crucial to bring them up. The first one was really in the plot sizes and land efficiency. So we still design as if land is infinite. Huge villa plots, deep setbacks, roads eating half the right of way. And that really has a cost in infrastructure, in walkability, in community life.
And it's a killer for livability.
It's a killer. Yeah. It's a killer. The second one is the single-use neighborhoods and districts. And what we mean by that is that we have office-only districts, villa-only neighborhoods, tourist-only waterfronts. They're busy at one time of the day and then dead at another. So people end up feeling as if I'm always driving somewhere else to live my life, right?
Yeah.
And lastly, another one that kept coming up, which is the invisible workers and service life, which I think isn't talked about. It isn't talked about enough. Right. And it's been a recurring theme. And what we also mean by that is that our cities function because of people you rarely see in in these glossy renders, right? And who are we talking about? It's the delivery riders, the cleaners, bus drivers, municipal crews. If the city doesn't work for them and we don't design spaces for them in terms of, let's say, shade, rest stops, safe crossings, it doesn't actually work.
Right, 100%. If a city is not inclusive and doesn't work for everyone, then what are we doing? And I would also add a fourth.
Okay.
Now, listening to you, I would say that the gaps between big plans and small rules is another thing that we really noticed. You can have a beautiful vision or render on a slide or on paper, but if the parking standards, planning regulations, setbacks, you know, these boring stuff, but
the technical boring stuff,
but it's the hidden skeleton that everything is built off of, you know. So if these don't change, the built result will always end up looking the same. It'll end up looking identical, because we talk about sustainable cities, 15-minute cities, but then if our planning codes and regulations don't allow that, we're just doing the same with glossy headlines.
I absolutely love that I brought that up, because actually, I think that's where specifically Arcat lives and thrives.
Yeah.
I think it's in that gap specifically. So we take these big ideas and ask, what has to change in the regulation, in the street cross section, in the building codes, right? All the technical things you discussed.
Yeah.
For it to actually be real, for it to come to life.
100%. And speaking of making things real, let's talk projects.
Okay.
So Fatma, I wanted to ask you, what's one project from 2025 that you're really proud of?
Okay. Well, the one I'm really, really proud of, I think I would say, was a street we worked on that moved from being this fast, forgettable connector to this slower, people-first spine.
I love that one.
We didn't really do any magic. What we did was the tighter junctions, which included painted crosswalks to bring it to life. We implemented continuous sidewalks to make it walkable. We analyzed where people walked and implemented a really smart shading strategy to save on costs as well. We added spaces for these small everyday uses, for these small moments, right? Such as through kiosks, pop-ups with different programming, whether it was art galleries, libraries. We added benches, so street furniture was a really critical strategy that we took into consideration. A waiting area that isn't exposed to the sun.
Yeah, and they all work. They're small, simple things, but when they are put together or work together, they create something bigger than the whole.
Exactly. And I think that's what I really liked about it, was the fact that it was these small interventions that created this large-scale impact.
And what felt different about this project? Why are you so proud of it?
What felt different, I think, was the fact that usually we're designing for a future population.
Interesting.
But in this case, we were really designing for the everyday lives. What I meant with that, for example, for the person crossing today with groceries, or the kid on a scooter, the worker waiting for a pickup. It really felt honest.
Yeah, because you're making a real impact on people's lives, right? For me, I would say it was a neighborhood concept where we challenged this idea of one villa per big plot mentality. And the developer actually came to us because they wanted a connected, accessible community, but they also wanted to cater to market demands and what people wanted. So what we did was we explored smaller, smarter plots.
Yeah.
We also looked at different typologies between having villas or towers or apartments. We looked at townhouses, courtyard clusters, and mixing uses so that a mosque, a grocery, a clinic, a park are walking distance and not driving missions.
What do you think that taught you?
What that taught me was that we have a really, really ripe opportunity in the UAE to write a new chapter in our housing, in our mixed communities. And if we keep copying the 1990s model of big plots and wide highways connecting things, we're locking in car dependency
Absolutely.
and isolation for decades. And that's just going to make achieving things like quality of life and livability so much harder and more expensive in the future.
And I think there's a true appetite for that.
Big time, big time.
I want to talk about the mirror the community held up to us on social media. So, Ahmed, give me your favorite Arcat post of the year.
Okay, there are so many. This is really hard.
Yeah, this is a difficult one,
I think it's the one where we talked about urban design or urban planning terms. And I really specifically liked the part where it said that urban planning is not about making new places only, but it's about making existing places we have today make sense.
Yeah.
Right? And that's so true for the UAE, for
very much
Dubai specifically, where we have so much built fabric. The job now is not adding new things, but to repair, stitch, upgrade, improve upon what you have, not endless expansion.
Absolutely. And I think mine, if I have to really reflect on this one, mine was when we talked about silent stress points in cities.
What does that mean?
So it was those small, we talked a lot about small interventions, small moments, those small specific places where your heart rate spikes, the unsafe crossing, the bus stop with no shade, the awkward ramp.
Yeah.
People flooded the comments with real locations, remember? It was like a stress map of the country.
Big time. And in the comments and the DMs, what did you see as the biggest theme?
Okay. There were many themes, but
there's ones that stood out, right?
There were ones that stood out, and I would say it was to understand why their city looks the way it does, to know that somebody is actually thinking about their daily reality, not just the skyline.
Yeah.
Another one I would say was to feel that they're not crazy for being exhausted by certain places. Again, going back to that emotional standpoint.
Yeah, big time. And a lot of times people are frustrated going about their daily lives, not realizing that this is a design choice and that this can change, and we have that power as urban planners and as decision makers to do that. My favorite message was actually someone who said, I didn't know there was a word for why walking in my area feels so impossible. Now I know it's not just me, it's design. And so if Arcat can give people that clarity, then we're doing our job.
Yeah.
All right, let's look ahead. I'm going to ask you a direct question, Fatma.
Okay.
What do you want 2026 to be for Arcat?
That's a good one. It's a really big one.
Yeah, a manifestation list.
It's a manifestation list. I would say more built impact. I really want to walk on more streets where we've not just advised, but where Arcat's logic is really poured into the asphalt, the shade, the crossings.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
When you see a street, you're like, Arcat did that.
Exactly. We Arcatified it.
Arcatified it.
That's been our lingo. I would also say these manifesting deeper policy conversations. I want us at the table where, all these technical aspects, such as parking standards, plot rules, and street design manuals are being actually rewritten, because that's where, as we said earlier, that's where the real change happens, right?
100%. It's these hidden variables that control a lot of things. Yeah.
And lastly, I would say better storytelling. I want us to keep making complex planning ideas simple without, of course, dumbing them down.
Right.
But especially in Arabic, for the people whose cities that these really are.
100%.
I think this has been a really key lesson for us.
Definitely.
Is that we want to start weaving in the Arabic.
Incorporating Arabic in our terms is important. Yeah, we talk about culture and heritage, right? So we should definitely start with us. And what do you want 2026, Fatma, to be for UAE cities?
For UAE cities, I would say less announce and forget, more measure and improve.
Okay.
So we're getting really good at launching big initiatives. I want to see more honest tracking of, like, such as, did this boulevard actually become safer? Did this housing area actually build a community? Did this project make daily life calmer, not just richer on paper?
Yeah, it's measuring the outcome of the implementation, which then feeds back into your design and improving on it. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's this feedback loop is so important. Something we should definitely work on as ARKAT.
Right?
Yeah.
And now your turn. Ahmed, what do you want 2026 to be for Arcat?
Okay, I'm much simpler. I'm just going to say I want 1 or 2 flagship projects that become real precedents, not perfect utopias.
Clearly, I overtalked.
But places that people can point at and say, this is what a Gulf people first neighborhood street looks like. Again, seeing a new typology or model of way of living and people knowing that Arcat worked on it because it's successful and achieving all of its goals. The second, I would say, is a stronger research spine. Now, what I mean about that is more access to data, more mapping, more before, after analysis.
Struggling with this,
big time. And this is really important, just going back to your point earlier, so that when we say this works, we've improved this boulevard or we've improved this community, we have evidence, not just intuition. Yeah. And the third I want Arcat to really be the studio or the firm that people call when they're tired of the status quo or of copy-paste models and want something grounded in context, something that works, something that's real, and something that will last, just to be the leading voice for what good urban planning in the region is.
That's a good one. And for the UAE cities?
For UAE cities, I'd love to see us explore or experiment with one national housing neighborhood that breaks the mold, more mixed.
I can't wait for that one.
Me too.
Put it out there.
Big times, and we're talking about, mixed or a diversity of residential typologies, mixed uses, real walkability, access to public transport, things that nationals miss in their neighborhoods. The second would be, we have a lot of good infrastructure in terms of highways connecting cities, but we don't have streets. And so I would say another dream thing would be to look at a handful of key streets in each emirate that become true civic spines, like boulevards, where people can actually walk and the shops are facing the streets and it's not just for cars.
And like we were saying, I'm like, we live in a city that's quite built up. Yeah. So it's really worth now investing and revisiting.
Exactly. We have
exactly.
Time. And then the third would be start publishing more open urban data so that residents, researchers, studios like us can help. This is a big challenge we face. And this is why a lot of research that people do is focused on a lot of cities like Paris, London, Singapore, and that helps make their urban planning better. So if we can get access to urban planning data, that would be a game changer.
It would. I would say before we wrap up,
getting to the end now.
Yeah, we are. Let's talk dream guests for 2026. Who do you want sitting across from us next year?
Okay, I thought about this and I think one really cool guest would be a school principal or teacher. Someone someone to talk to someone that works in a UAE neighborhood and actually knows firsthand how kids experience their city on their way to school. The second would be a developer or an investor who's actually changed their mind about how they build and are building better and seeing the advantages or the pros of doing that. And the third would be someone from mobility or transport, someone from Etihad Rail or a bus or metro decision maker to talk honestly about what it would take to make public transport in the UAE as irresistible as driving a car.
Accessible. Yeah. Exactly. I love that.
Can I ask you?
Yeah. I mean, to add to that, I think what would be really, really cool and different is a municipal worker, such a tongue twister, or inspector,
Yeah.
who has seen the city from the ground level, let's say for 20 years plus. I feel like they have so much stories to share.
Yeah.
And it would be really, really incredible. Another one, in my opinion, would be a community member from an older neighborhood.
Okay.
To talk about informal governance and really how people self-organize and how they get together.
Yeah, and how resilient these older neighborhoods are to change. You know? Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And lastly, I would say a young planner or designer from the UAE and beyond from the Gulf, who's already pushing against the default settings, right, of how we build. And maybe we can leverage on, your accessibility to universities.
100%. So if you're listening and you recognize yourself in any of these categories, you know where to find us at arkat.ae.
So to everyone who watched, listened, commented, argued, or quietly absorbed this year, thank you. You turned Arcat from just a consultancy into a living conversation.
Tell us what you want more of in 2026. What issues in your neighborhood, what streets, districts, or projects you want us to unpack, or ideas you want us to deep dive into, and what voices or guests you think deserve a seat at this table.
Honestly, we'll keep doing what we do, make urban planning less mysterious, more honest, and truly rooted in the places we actually live.
Yeah, and from both of us at Arcat, thank you for being part of 2025, and thank you for helping us build a community around Arcat. We're so excited to be embarking on 2026 together.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.